Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astosaraswati Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astosaraswati Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we have an disappearance of an associate of Lord Chaitanya named Sri Narahari Sarkara Thakur. And I'll just read a little bit about this dear devotee to give us some understanding of his role in relation to Lord Chaitanya. So these are just a few statements from Srila Prabhupada's writings. This is from the Adi Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Narahari Sarkar Thakur was born at Sri Khand. Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes that the residents of Sri Khand formed a branch of the desire tree of love of God. Sri Khand Dwasi, the residents of Sri Khand, Mukunda and his son Raghunandan were the 39th branch of the tree. Narahari was the 40th, Chiranjiva the 41st, and Sulochana the 42nd. They were all big branches of the all-merciful tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They distributed the fruits and flowers of love of Godhead anywhere and everywhere. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj once stated, quote, Navadvip is the abode of Goloka, Vrindavan is the abode of Gokula, and Srikhand is the abode of Vaikunta. Sri Narahari Sakar Thakur participated in all of Sri Gaurasundar's pastimes. Bhakti Ratnakar states, Sri Sakar Thakur's glories are most uncommon. In Braja, he is known as Madhu Mati, whose good qualities are unlimited. Another statement from the Adi Leela. Narahari Das Sakar was a very famous devotee. Lochan Das Thakur, the celebrated author of Sri Chaitanya Mangala, was his disciple. In the Chaitanya Mangala, it is stated that Sri Gadadhar Das and Narahari Sakar were extremely dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but there is no specific statement regarding the inhabitants of the village of Srikanta. This is from the Chaitanya Mangal. Sri Lochandas Thakur was the dear disciple of Sri Narahari Sakar. In his book, Chaitanya Mangalo, he introduces his guru in this way. My Thakur, spiritual master, is Sri Narahari Das Thakur, who is very influential amongst the medical caste. He is continuously absorbed in Krishna prema, and in fact his body knows nothing but Krishna. To his followers he speaks about nothing other than love of Krishna. He was previously known in Vrindavan Leela as Madhumati and was a storehouse of sweetness, honey, and very dear to Radharani. Now he is now present in Kali Yuga with Sri Gaurasundar as Sri Narahari. He is the keeper of the storehouse of love of Radha and Krishna. And of course, we all know this bhajan we sing every Tuesday now, the Gora Arti. Narahari Thakur is mentioned here. Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings some of that intimate service that he performed to Lord Chaitanya. Kiba Nara Hari Hari Chamaladuraya. So Narahari is fanning Gaurasundar with a yak tail, a chamara. So we can just see how important this devotee is, personally fanning the Supreme Lord with the yak tail. So yeah, his disappearance appears on the Ekadasi Tithi day. So today is Ekadasi, special day to get special mercy from the Lord. Prabhupada said that I'm not sure if this is Prabhupada's statement. I saw a book that was compiled that says that Ekadasi is the mother of devotion. So if you perform certain activities on Ekadasi, especially hearing and chanting, can be more relishable for the performer. So that's all I have in regards to that associate. I'm sure other devotees could speak more extensively, but just wanted to speak a little something. And now we will go into today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. And we are currently on the second canto, 9th chapter, entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. We are on text number 5. Ethan wants the volume turned up. Okay, we got it pulled up here. Sa Adidevo Jagatam Paro Guruhu Swadishnyam Ashtaya Sishrikshayakshata Tam Nyadyagachad Drisham Atra Samatam Prapancha Nirmana Vidir Yaya Bhavet Saadi Devo Jagatam Paro Guru Swadishnamashtaya Sishrikshayakshata Tam Nadyagachcha Drishamatra Sammatam Prapancha Nirmana Vidirya Bhavet Saadi Devo Jagatam Paro Guru Swadishnyam Ashtaya Sishrikshayakshata Tam Nadyagacha Drishamatra Sammatam Prapancha Nirmana Vidirya Bhavet Saadi Devo Jagatam Paro Guru Swadishnamashtaya Sishrikshayakshata Tam nadya gaccha drishamatra satmatam. Prapancha nirmana vidirya ya bhavet. Please chant.
Sadidevo jagatam paro guru Swadishnamastaya sistrikshaikshatā Tam nadya gaccha drishamatra sammatam Prapancha nirmana vidhirya ya bhavet
Adidevo jagatam paro guru. Janasaya parikshayakshata. Tam nadya gaccha drishamatra sammatam.
Prapancha nirmana vidhirya ya bhavet
Adidevo jagatam paro guru.
Swadishnamastaya sistrikshaikshatā
Shayakshata. Tam nadya gaccha drishamatra sammatam. Prapancha nirmana vidirya ya bhavet. Adidevo jagatam paro guru.
Swadishnamastaya sistrikshaikshatā Tam nadya gaccha drishamatra sammatam Prapancha nirmana vidhirya ya bhavet
Matajis. Adidevo jagatam paro guru.
Swadishnamastaya sistrikshaikshatā Tam nadya gaccha drishamatra sammatam Prapancha nirmana vidhirya ya bhavet Sadidevo jagatam paro guru Swadishnamastaya sistrikshaikshatā Tam nadya gaccha drishamatra sammatam Prapancha nirmana vidhirya ya bhavet
Okay, good. That was a tough one. Now we'll do the word for word. Saha, he. Adideva, the first demigod. Jagatam, of the universe. Paraha, supreme. Guruhu, spiritual master. Swadishnyam, his lotus seat. Astaya, to find the source of it. Sisrikshaya, for the matter of creating the universal affairs. Aikshata, began to think. Tam, in that matter. Na, could not. Adyagachat, understand. Drisham, the direction. Atra, therein. Samatam, just the proper way. Prapancha, material. Nirmana, construction. Vidihi, process. Yaya, as much as. Bhavet, should be. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation: Lord Brahma, the first spiritual master, supreme in the universe, could not trace out the source of his lotus seat, and while thinking of creating the material world, he could not understand the proper direction for such creative work, nor could he find out the process for such creation. Purport: This verse is the prelude for explaining the transcendental nature of the form and the abode of the Lord. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it has already been said that the Supreme Absolute Truth exists in his own abode without any touch of the deluding energy. Therefore, the kingdom of God is not a myth, but factually a different and transcendental sphere of planets known as the Vaikunthas. This will also be explained in this chapter. Such knowledge of the spiritual sky far above this material sky and its paraphernalia can be known only by dint of devotional service, or bhakti yoga. The power of creation by Lord Brahma was also achieved by bhakti yoga. Brahmaji was bewildered in the matter of creation, and he could not even trace out the source of his own existence. But all this knowledge was fully achieved by him through the medium of bhakti yoga. By bhakti yoga, one can know the Lord, and by knowing the Lord as the Supreme, one is able to know everything else. One who knows the Supreme knows everything else. That is the version of all Vedas. Even the first spiritual master of the universe was enlightened by the grace of the Lord, so who else can attain perfect knowledge of everything without the mercy of the Lord? If anyone desires to seek perfect knowledge of everything, he must seek the mercy of the Lord, and there is no other means. To seek knowledge on the strength of one's personal attempt is a sheer waste of time. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namashreshtam Manamapi Sachiputram Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajim Murupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratitaya Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Bhadrani Virunoti Suritsatam Nashta Praesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, so today we are hearing from the second canto, 9th chapter, and I was a big fan of this chapter when I heard the title, Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. It just makes so much sense because when we have difficulties in life, which are sure to come about, we will have lots of questions. So we have to put our questions to those who know the right answers. And if we look for the answers in the Shastra, in the Guru, and in the Sadhus, we will be assured of success. But others who don't have access to this transcendental knowledge they don't cite the Lord's version, so to say. They cite many different versions that are, you could say, we always chant. Well, I guess here in Christian life, we go through different prayers in the morning, but commonly you'll find that the devotees chant the offenses to the holy name, being 10 in number, but there's also an 11th. And you can see and hear the importance of these, especially in initiation lectures. Srila Prabhupada would lecture on this subject. And there's a stanza in those shlokas that says to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. That's an offense. To blaspheme the books like the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. So we should feel ourselves very fortunate that we have access to these narrations. And we should dedicate our lives to reciting them, hearing others recite them, and distributing them. And all these are equally important. Because if we don't read these books, how can we distribute them? There's a story about someone going out and handing out the books and saying, "Oh, can you tell me what's in it?" And the person says, "I have no idea." Prabhupada said that he gave an instruction, actually, to two of his disciples. Maybe there was more, but specifically my own spiritual master. He said, "These books are not just for distributing. I've made these books for you to become pure devotees and to go home back to Godhead." So after receiving that instruction from their exalted spiritual master, they took it very seriously and then began plundering the Bhaktivedanta purports. I was granted access to visiting the Dham by our fantastic temple president, Vishnu Chitta Prabhu. He allowed me to go there, and we were sitting in a holy place, Srivas Angam, which is known as it's like the start of the Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, the home of Srivas Thakur. And we were sitting there. I was with a god brother of mine, and it's the place where the Mridanga was also broken. They have a little altar there. And we were just sitting reading about the Panchatattva and how the Panchatattva, who is on the altar here, we worship them daily. The members of the Panchatattva, they plundered the storehouse of love of God. And the more they distributed, actually the more the contents increased. So our dear Janardhan Krishna Prabhu was making this point yesterday about our beloved Mahotsav Prabhu, Mahotsaha Prabhu. The rest of the world knows him as Mahotsava. They're messing up the last syllable, ha, Mahotsaha Prabhu. How he's distributing so many Srimad Bhagavatams that the printing press can't keep up with this devotee. And we are all very fortunate to have him as our Sankirtan leader, as our mentor, and as our very dear friend. Him and I got to have the fortune of going out with him. It's very rare. I probably get to go out with him once a year. But whenever we go on an excursion together, it's a memory that I cherish. And him and I were there at Patel Brothers. It was just a normal day for him. But for me, I felt like a kid at a candy store because I got to witness one of the greatest Sankirtan devotees of all time. And, we're meeting mostly Hindus coming out of the store, buying their boga. Who knows who they're offering it to. But anyways, they're quite pious because they walk by us and we say, everyone knows the routine here. Like, "Oh, prasad, please take prasad. Guru prasad." And it's amazing to see their reaction because as soon as they see us, they'll stop. Like they just it's almost like, the red light turns on and you just know to stop. These Hindus walk by and they just all of a sudden they we're handing these little sugar sweets and they look and they're like, "Oh," and they automatically know what to do. They wipe off their hands. They hold it out like this with a little mudra and they take the prasadam, It's so amazing. They're so cultured. Yeah. What a great very fortunate to take birth, where you're not thrown into sinful life, meat eating, intoxication, gambling. I was reading this letter by Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and Maharaj was very, very close to his spiritual master and would pose challenging questions. And there's a letter, it's pretty famous, it's been circulated around, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj was questioning the position of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was chastising his disciple, saying, what does it make a difference? I am a guru, And later, towards the end of the letter, Prabhupada was saying, there was never a time when I did not remember Krishna. He says, these gambling, intoxication, I never knew what is illicit sex. Prabhupada was explaining that, why does it matter who I was in my previous life? Prabhupada said there was some astrologer who predicted that Prabhupada was a physician in his previous life and that he was totally sinless. And what to speak of the present life of Srila Prabhupada, how much he was averse to sinful activity, not even thoughts of it. But anyways, to get closer to today's purport, this is a very important chapter in the cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. In this chapter specifically, we're coming close to them. It's what's known as the Chatur Shloki, which are the 4 essential verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavad Gita also has nutshell verses that are given in 4. Does anyone know these verses by chance? It's in the... Everything's okay? No, I thought you were coming to change something. It's found in the 10th chapter. It's I think it's 10.8, 10.9, 10.10, and 10.11. These are the nutshell verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Very important to know. And similarly, also, we have verses in the Bhagavatam that give the essence of the entirety of the work, just in 4 verses. And there's a dialogue here between Lord Brahma and Lord Krishna. And Brahma is known as Vidhi. He has a very exalted post, and to obtain the post of Lord Brahma, I believe you have to execute the Varnashram system without making any mistakes perfectly for 100 births. So to attain the post of Brahma, you got to be sharp. No mistakes for 100 births and perfectly performing the Varnashram system. So even Lord Brahma, who has the element of the totality of intelligence at his disposal, the most intelligent being in the entire creation, even he can't even fathom what's going on. And in this chapter, you'll see he's sitting on his lotus flower. He's trying to create like we're hearing today, but he's having some trouble understanding. And I read through this purport, and there are various verses I would like to have a look at. So if whoever is controlling the screen, they could pull up Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 19, Text 27. His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami wrote many books, one of which being Lekamala, which is called A Garland of Writings, I believe. And I was thinking in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is also said that 5:19:27, Bhagavatam. There's sections of the Chaitanya Charitamrita that state different verses from the Bhagavatam, and it's like a garland of all these beautiful verses found in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So when I was going through this purport today, I was digging up various verses that Prabhupada mentions in here. So I'm just kind of going to present various verses that I dug up from today's purport. And there's so much to be said about Lord Brahma. And this is a really, really fantastic verse. Go to the Sanskrit, please. Satyam jishati artitam artito nrinam naivartato yat punar artita yata swayam vidate bhajatam anichatam ichapitanam nijapada pallavam. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead fulfills the material desires of a devotee who approaches him. Oh, wait, this is the wrong verse. I'm sorry. This is something that isn't directly related to the class, but also a good verse. If you want to memorize it, you get extra points. Go to, sorry, I have a lot of verses that I dug up. This is, this is good. 10, 14, 29. Oh. Come on, Charandeep. It's one of the prerequisites for Krishna life before you join the ashram. 10, 14, 29. This is also a famous verse. I was hearing it echoed by Bhaktivikas Swami Maharaj in a lecture listened to by one of his disciples. I think it was Abhimanyu Sutta Prabhu. 10, 14, 29, yeah. Atapi deva padam bhujadvaya prasada lesha nugrihita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya eko picharam vichinvan. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. So Prabhupada is making the point at the end of this purport that if anyone desires to seek perfection of everything, he must seek the mercy of the Lord, and there is no other means. To seek knowledge on the strength of one's personal attempt is a sheer waste of time. So if we're trying to figure it out ourselves or perform austerities and penance to reach a certain goal that is other than bhakti, we will simply fall down again. The Bhagavatam says that. Rura krichnena param param tata patantyato nadrigita yushmarangraha, that they undergo severe types of austerities and penances, bathing in cold water for thousands of years, being burnt up by the sunshine, standing on their toes, being eaten by ants and bugs. But if they don't get a taste of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, they take birth in higher planets and then they simply fall down again. So there's also a famous verse that is commonly chanted in Mangalacharan prayers. Devotees say, Mukam goroti vachalam pangam langayate girim yat kripaham tamaham vande Shri Gurum dinatarinam. That if one has the mercy of the spiritual master, they can cross mountains even if their legs don't even work. And even if they're blind, they're endowed with transcendental vision. So this is really what our movement is based on, the mercy of the Lord and his devotees. And in that verse that we just heard, a nice little piece here is found, prasada lesha. And I used to call this to Bhakta Trace when he was, before he became Ali Krishna Prabhu. Because a lesha is a very small amount, just a tiny little portion, a lesha. And because in this verse from the 10th canto, in the word for word, Prabhupada says, by only a trace. And I would see this, and I would say, oh, it's, hey, Bhakta Trace. Anyways, that was a long time ago. But prasada lesha, we just need a little bit of the mercy, and we'll be able to conquer over our anarthas, unwanted habits, conditioning, because only when we take the dust of the pure devotees and smear it all over our bodies are we able to give up the material conception of life. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the 4th canto that to take the dust of the spiritual master means to give up one's puffed up conception of one's material life, thinking oneself to be very great, or just to become overwhelmed by false pride. So that is the true definition of taking the dust of the spiritual master, is to remove one's false conception of being the doer. Prabhupada made a lot of points in this purport today, and Prabhupada mentions Bhakti Yoga 4 times. So, since we are aspiring Bhakti Yogis, if someone could pull up a famous verse from the Gita, chapter 9, text 26, very important verse in regards to Bhakti. Extra points if you memorize it. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachyati tadaham bhaktya paritam ashnami prayatat manaha. Everyone knows this one. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. And if we can go down to the last paragraph, the very last paragraph. Go down a little further. This point is really far out. A little bit further. Keep going down. Oh, okay, yeah, here it is. This, here we go. You guys ready for this? It's amazing. And so, in this instance, Krishna's hearing the devotee's words of love and offering foodstuffs is wholly identical with his eating and actually tasting. This point should be emphasized. Because of his absolute position, his hearing is wholly identical with his eating and tasting. So amazing. A devotee just made an offering, and Krishna, the prayers that are being offered, he accepts it. Just like the foodstuffs that's being offered. Wow, Bhakti Ethan, Hare Krishna. Welcome. So, and there is something else I wanted to look at from this purport, because Prabhupada talks about, go up to the first paragraph, please. For the intelligent person, I'll just read this paragraph, it's nice. For the intelligent person, it is essential to be in Krishna consciousness, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, in order to achieve a permanent blissful abode for eternal happiness. The process of achieving such a marvelous result is very easy and can be attempted even by the poorest of the poor without any kind of qualification. The only qualification required in this connection is to be a pure devotee of the Lord. It does not matter what one is or where one is situated. The process is so easy that even a leaf or a little water or fruit can be offered to the Supreme Lord in genuine love, and the Lord will be pleased to accept it. No one, therefore, can be barred from Krishna consciousness because it is so easy and universal. Who is such a fool that he does not want to be Krishna conscious by this simple method and thus attain the highest perfection of life of eternity, bliss, and knowledge? Krishna wants only loving service and nothing more. Krishna accepts even a little flower from his pure devotee. He does not want any kind of offering from a non-devotee. He is not in need of anything from anyone because he is self-sufficient, and yet he accepts the offering of his devotee in exchange of love and affection. To develop Krishna consciousness is the highest perfection of life. Bhakti is mentioned twice in this verse in order to declare more emphatically that bhakti, or devotional service, is the only means to approach Krishna. No other conditions, such as becoming a brahmana, a learned scholar, a very rich man, or a great philosopher, can induce Krishna to accept some offering. Without the basic principle of bhakti, nothing can induce the Lord to agree to accept anything from anyone. Bhakti is never causal. The process is eternal. It is direct action and service to the absolute whole. So the point of Krishna accepting various offerings through all of his different senses is pretty amazing. And since we're glorifying Lord Brahma, There is a famous verse in the Brahma Samhita that mentions this point, and if anyone can mention it here who's not second initiated, they get a special Akadasi Gulab Jamun. We sing it every day. There's a verse that we sing every day from the Brahma Samhita that talks about how Krishna accepts various different kinds of things through his various kinds of senses. There we go. With help from the respected brahmanas. There we go. Sharing is caring. And it's just essential. Prabhupada's emphasizing, making this point again and again about bhakti yoga, the importance of bhakti yoga. Also, a powerful verse, famous verse from the Gita, also worth memorizing. Bhaktya mam abhijananti yavan yaschasmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. That only by devotional service can Krishna be understood. Devotional service, everything devotional service. And I was hearing about the one of the most important practices in devotional service is chanting, which we start our morning with every day for the rest of eternity. And the idea is to give attention to the holy name. And when, say, for instance, you're having a conversation with someone, you're talking to them for some time, but then your attention goes elsewhere, you start to lose interest, and it's basically conversation's over. And I was hearing about the early days of the Krishna consciousness movement, and this is something we may want to implement here at Krishna Life. During Srimad Bhagavatam class, there was someone with a spray gun.
Oh my God. That would be a big ego trip.
And it could shoot very far. So when devotees were nodding off in the Srimad Bhagavatam class, they would get sprayed. And
I would love that.
80 to 90% of the people, do you know what their reaction was?
They would slap the other guy.
Prabhu, I wasn't sleeping.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That's unique.
So we may be inattentive in our chanting, but we may not even notice it. So it takes the intervention of the devotees, someone with a spray gun to come and say, hey, pay attention. Hear the holy name, hear the Bhagavatam class. So it takes intervention from a heavy personality to come and lift the conditioned soul out of the muck of material existence. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, it takes gallons of blood to just make one single devotee. And more on this point about the holy name, the mind naturally wants to be involved in some activity. The mind wants to be entangled in something, which is why people watch soap operas, because there's some big drama happening and they feel a sense of connection, they become involved in it, they start crying. People are practically addicted to soap operas. I don't know if any of you guys ever watch them. Maybe it's more of something that Matajis would watch, but you never heard of a soap opera?
I mean, can you give like an example of it?
It's basically, it's something that people watch on television, but it's something like a play where like he leaves her, she leaves him. There's a-
Like One Tree Hill.
yeah,
Romeo and Juliet.
yeah, classic example. Yeah, but now it's like really, it's basically on television. Well, I guess in previous times it was acted upon stages and maybe it was a little bit more moral. But now on television it's just like, really bad. The characters are doing all sorts of nasty things. Like the main activity of the whole soap operas is like, people leaving their respected partners, husband and wife, no sense of dharma or anything like that. So anyways, the mind wants to be entangled with something. And there's an example given of fishermen. You were talking about this the other day, the fishing pole, fishing rod, fishing stick. And they have an invisible line. And on the end of the line, there's a little lure. And manufacturers, they spend like millions of dollars just making these little lures. They look like fish, they move like fish, and they have these little hooks on them. And the fish is flying through the water, and they say, oh, look, something to eat. And it, boom, catches it, and it's caught. So similarly, the holy name of Krishna is like a hook. And our mind should be like a fish. So we can hook our mind onto the mantra and just get hooked on. And that's pretty painful. I mean, fish getting caught on hooks is, Anyways, the mind wants to be entangled, and there is a beautiful prayer by King Kulakshekhar. Krishna tvadiya parapankaja paranjatam adeva me vishato manasa rajahamsa prana prayana samaye kapavyat pitai kantavaro dhanavito smaranam kutaste. My Lord Krishna, I pray that the swan of my mind may immediately sink down to the stems of the lotus feet of your lordship and be locked in their network. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up with cough, how will it be possible to think of you? So we want to become entangled in the lotus stems so that we can remember Krishna at the time of death. I just have a few more points to make. Let me just have a look at this purport here. Looking at more of these verses I was digging up. So Lord Brahma is engaged in the matter of creating the material world. He can't understand. He needs the proper direction. And in this verse, the Sanskrit is really technical, and I had even trouble pronouncing it. But the devotees here did pretty good. One of the words that's found here is drisham. And so I like to become more familiar with Prabhupada's books. So I like to connect the dots when I'm reading. There's so many verses you can pull up, and then you read this verse. Prabhupada quotes a verse in the purport, that takes you another where. You're reading, all of a sudden you have books piled up all over your desk, citing this, sourcing this. Oh my God, it's like a fantastic roller coaster, like a Ferris wheel of Prabhupada's books just go on, and it's amazing. But this word, drisham, is found in the first canto. How does this verse begin? That this Bhagavad Purana is as bright as the sun. Bhagate dharma jnana devisaha kalo nashta drisham esha puranarko dano ditaha. That this drisham, the people have actually lost their vision in this age. And similarly, Lord Brahma, he's seeking proper direction so that Krishna can give him the intelligence to engage in creating the material universe. And this is such an important chapter. Even towards the end, Lord Brahma gets the darshan of Sri Krishna and even has the great fortune of shaking hands with the Supreme Lord. So this is a really important chapter. The Chatur Shloki verses of the Bhagavatam are super, super deep. And I'm sure when we get to that section, we could give multiple classes on a single verse. And there is a verse from the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that talks about one has to pour water on the root of a tree. This is a famous verse. Prabhupada would quote it quite often, 4:31:14. yata taror mula nishchanena tribyanti yat skanda bujo pashaka prano paharachcha yatindriyanam tataiva sarvaraham achutyateja. That the branches, twigs, everything else is being nourished just as one pours water on the root of a tree. And I was hearing Srila Prabhupada speak on this topic, and Prabhupada gives this well-known story about the senses, how the senses one day decided to go on strike. And they said, well, we're working so hard, and meanwhile, the stomach is just sitting there enjoying. So let's get some picket, signs, and let's just boycott this fellow. And the hands are saying, I'm taking everything. I'm working so hard. And the eyes are saying, no, look, I'm seeing everything. How can you see? The mouth, the tongue is saying, well, I get to taste everything. How will you know what's good? And the feet are like, well, I'm carrying this guy around. He's got this big old belly. We'll just go on strike. And so they try it out. And after some time, all the senses become weak. There's inertia, and the body is not functioning properly. So then the workers' union comes together, and they think, okay, maybe we should rethink this boycott. And all the while, the stomach's just taking a break. He's just, he's fasting that day. So yeah, there's a wonderful thing that can take place when we decide to surrender to Krishna. And by doing so, we will achieve the Param Gatim, the ultimate goal of life. And I'll bring up one other verse because I have one left to mention here, I'll end my class. Sorry. Anyways, I already quoted that one. I'm going to speak a little bit about book distribution just briefly because we're in the marathon. And I had this wonderful interaction yesterday. It was towards the end of the night, and there was a stewardess sitting by the curb. And generally, when these stewardess or even the pilots are coming off the plane, most of them are just wanting to get away from everything, and they'll be sitting there puffing down some cigarette, or the stewardess are just in anxiety because they just got done dealing with like hundreds of people's minds and giving everyone sodas and wine and everything. But normally they're just like, get the hell away from me, I don't want whatever spiritual thing you're offering. There was one lady yesterday who I met, and she was really, really nice. And she said, oh, I met one of you monks. I said, oh, really? You have our book? She says, yeah, I gave him $15. And I was like, wow. And she was like so impressed by this sweetness of this devotee. And I was like, wow, I wonder who she met, And she's pulling up her Cash App, and I saw the Krishna Life logo. And I was like, wow, I wonder, because we've been at the airport now for years, and there's all kinds of different devotees. And immediately I thought it was Mahotsaha Prabhu. I was like, was he kind of like wild and like really like far out and hilarious? She's like, no. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's Matsya because he's like really tall and people probably remember meeting him. And she was like, no, I think he was like, I think his name started with a J. I was like, oh, Jacob. She was like, yeah.
Oh my God.
I was like, he's like little Hispanic boy. She's like, yeah, he was so nice to me. He was so nice. And she said, I wanted to give him a hug, but he just bowed. He bowed to me, and she said, I really respected that. And I was just so like, I felt so happy just talking to this lady. She was like, well, wait, why don't you just wait for a second, you can come and meet my son. So then the car pulled up. It was like, I started talking to a couple other people, and then she started yelling. She was like, hey, hey, hey. And his car drives up, and her little 7-year-old boy comes out. I'm like, hey, what's up, buddy? Gave him a fist up. And then he looks at my tilak. He's like, oh, what is that? And she was just like, super favorable impression. She got Prabhupada's books. She was like, yeah, whenever I see you guys out on the curb, now I have somebody to talk to. So you can see this is really an amazing incident of having people get Prabhupada's books, letting them have devotee association. She was super, super nice. And I was thinking about what it could have been if we were just normal people, like if Bhakta Jacob hadn't decided to surrender to the authority of Chandanacharya Prabhu. If he was just in the same airport on the same day, just a regular high school student getting into college. If he had an interaction with this lady, maybe they could have said, oh, hey, how you doing? How's your day going? But as a devotee, we have such an important significance in affecting the lives of others. So it's so important that we have this Krishna consciousness movement. We're able to go out, share Srila Prabhupada's books, and make an amazing effect on the human society just by people receiving Prabhupada's books in mass quantity. Prabhupada says we should cover the earth. Like Sherman-Williams, that's their motto. There's a picture of the earth planet, and they're just dumping a big old bucket of paint all over the earth. So there is a lot of work to be done these next few weeks, so we should all push ourselves a little bit beyond and more. Mahotsa Prabhu is going to be carrying the whole team on his back. And I like to pull up one last verse. This is also about Lord Brahma. Whoever's got the control. This is 11:29:6. There's so many verses about Lord Brahma. It's pretty far out. I wanted to read a purport from the Brahma Samhita, but I don't think we have time for that. I wanted to end early to leave some time. Yeah, this is about, this is connected to today's purport. I can read the translation. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with a prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. So yeah, even if we have such a long life or we're endowed with the totality of intelligence, we can't even begin to understand, even get a little glimpse of the toenails of Lord Krishna. So really all we can do is just pray and pray and pray and become a beggar. That was Prabhupada's whole mood when he came to America. He signed his letter on the Avadhūta, your most insignificant beggar. So we can go out with that mood and simply beg people, beg them for their hard-earned money. We're asking everyone to give a donation. No one ever gave me $100 before. We have to beg people. We're not going out and giving free books. If we were giving free books, you could say, we're just cheating people. But you have to give a donation, because if I give you this book for free, then I'm actually a cheater. Now, I may be a beggar, but I'm not a cheater. Because when that person gives a donation to the Krishna consciousness movement, then their devotional service begins. So we have to get these books out. People have to give their hard-earned money, and then they'll read the books, and the revolution for the misdirected civilization will begin. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abadyavatyapi namanyanantasya yashon kintaniyat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadavaha. My dear sir, you look like a thoughtful and purified man. I'll end the class here if there are any questions or comments or corrections. Bhakti Ethan. Oh, Mahotsa Prabhu.
We look alike a little bit. I think it's the glasses. We look very similar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Shaved head, too.
One thing I was thinking, I remember when speaking of gallons of blood, I remember reading in our family business, that there's an extension to that quote where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that, by shedding these gallons of blood, you're actually putting what's called chit rakta. That's like the spiritual blood into your spiritual body. So it's an analogy, of course. There's no like gross blood like how we have in this body. It's not like that for, in the spiritual body. But like this gallons of blood is like the chit rakta. To like, that's your awakening your spiritual body. So much. And, there's a couple of verses, where we can see Krishna's conversation with Lord Brahma. In the last 5 verses of the Brahma Samhita, it speaks, Krishna is revealing it to him. Krishna is revealing that knowledge to him. You can pull that up, the last, you can pull up the 5th last verse of the Brahma Samhita. There you can see, Krishna is very pleased with Lord Brahma, and we are so fortunate to have him as our Sampradaya Acharya.
Yeah.
I wanted to know also, while he's pulling it up, Prabhu gives like a definition of Sampradaya, is like a begging bowl, something along those lines. You know what I'm talking about?
I've heard Vaisheshika Prabhu say that we're the Sampradaya of the book.
Yeah, that's there. But like, he has a...
Sampradaya, I think, is also about giving.
Yeah, exactly. Sampradaya, like then the way it's broken up.
Yeah, because you see all the acharyas, they're holding their books. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is sitting. Lord Brahma's holding the Vedas. Sampradaya. Yeah, I've just heard my Gurumar say it means to give. I don't know the breakdown of the Sanskrit.
Go back one more verse. I think it starts with Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, as far as I know.
Is this one that talks about faith?
No. Oh, yeah, this is it. Ato Vacha Mahavishnu Bhagavantam Prajapatim. What is that? Brahman Mahatatva Vijnani Prajasarge Chanmati. Panchashlokam, yeah, this is it. Panchashlokim Imam Vidyam Vatsa Dattam Nibodhame. Read the translation, Prabhu. Go to the translation. On hearing the hymns contain the essence of the truth, the Supreme Lord Krishna said to Brahma, Brahma, if you experience inclination to create offspring by being endowed with real knowledge of the glory of Godhead, listen, my beloved. He's telling this to Lord Brahma, listen, my beloved, from me to this sign set forth in the following 5 shlokas. And then, he goes on to, explain the whole thing, but we can see that Krishna calls Brahma my beloved.
Wow.
And he says, listen, my beloved. He says that. That's exactly what he says. So we're so fortunate to be in the Sampradaya. We're so fortunate to be.
Yeah. We owe it to our spiritual masters we can never repay the debt, but just continue our whole lives trying to serve.
Hare Krishna. In one of the purports that you had up there, you were mentioning, or Prabhupada was mentioning, that non-devotees can't offer to Krishna. And so I was wondering, who would be classified as a non-devotee? Because I can get my mom sometimes to offer some of the boga that she prepares, or maybe even people who are following Christianity. I was wondering who would be classified as a non-devotee.
Yeah, that's in 926. I would just say that whoever is a non-devotee would be someone who is averse to Krishna. And if someone is even slightly inclined, like your mother, maybe she's more than slightly inclined because she has a devotee as a son. But Krishna is extremely grateful. And anything that's being offered, even the verse itself says, even if you just give me a little leaf, like Prabhupada says in the purport, the poorest of the poor can get benefit by worshiping Krishna. You can find water anywhere. So even if Krishna, like Prabhupada's saying in the purport that bhakti, everything bhakti. Even if you just give a little something, then Krishna makes that person a devotee. But to classify someone as a non-devotee, I would just say someone who's averse. But nature of the soul is to be a devotee, so we got to make everyone a devotee.
Prabhupada also says that the devotees are more merciful than the Lord. So even if it's like they might be non-devotees, but the devotees are giving them an opportunity to offer that to Krishna, and Krishna will accept that
Yeah.
because the devotee is granting that to someone else.
Amazing point. Devotees are more merciful than the Lord. Yeah, Krishna loves his devotees. Even when I got to go out with Mahotsav Prabhu, we were having this wonderful discussion. He was telling me mostly about how much Krishna and Arjuna have this sweet friendship. And I was thinking, wow, this is really amazing. We're doing Bhagavatam distribution and also doing Bhagavatam narration. The whole day was just like so nectarian, you know? So we can go out on book distribution, be thinking about, oh yeah, I remember that one thing Krishna told us to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, you know? Just practice, you know, just keep practicing, be detached. You need to be thinking about these. I mean, it's hard because when you're out there, you're basically on the battlefield fighting with so many people. But like when I go out on books, I like to just think about the Panchatattva and my Guru Maharaj. Because I can't think about philosophical things. And I'm talking to people like, what's up, man? Hey, miss, how you doing? My voice gets higher than that, but.
Really?
Oh, yeah. No, I like to go crazy out there. It's so much fun. But yeah, just remember Krishna. Remember Krishna, remember his devotees, remember his instructions while performing your service. But if you're so engaged, if you're in samadhi, we can try to be in samadhi. I'm not saying I'm in samadhi, but when you're out there working so hard, distributing books for so many hours, you may not be able to, you know, think about Krishna's lotus feet all the time. But even doing that service, you know, it's non-different from just doing direct meditation. Going out and distributing books pleases the acharyas, so. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Matajis don't have any questions? Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Charadeshna Prabhu ki
Jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.